I'm Bonnie Silvestri from the University of South Florida Office of Community Engagement and Partnerships, and we've been doing an ongoing conversation series talking to various experts in service learning and problem-based learning. Today we have with us Dr. Ulisses Araujo, who is an expert in problem-based learning from Brazil, and he's part of a multinational project that he's working on with Dr. Jenni Mariano of the USF Sarasota campus. I would love to learn more about how you have implemented problem-based learning in such a broad and expansive way in your university. So if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you think are the successes of that approach.
Okay. Hi, Bonnie. Well, my experience with problem-based learning, it's from 20 years ago, more or less, at the University of São Paulo. And more specifically, 10 years ago, we started a new campus that is called USP Leste. USP is the University of São Paulo. Leste is East, only it's East campus. It was a campus designed to work with problem-based learning. So in 2004, we began activities in 2005 with 1,000 students enrolled a year in 10 different majors from all areas of knowledge, not just from humanities, or it's called today School of Arts, Science and Humanities. And it's a school with no departments, so 10 different majors in only one school, where students study together in the freshman year. They have to work in groups of 6 since the first week of activities in the university when they are 17, 18. And since this very first week, they have to develop projects in the community, work with project-based learning, actually with project and problem-based learning, as we say, and also with community involvement in the nearby slums or communities nearby the campus.
So do you find that it's a very good way to introduce, often there's some difficulties transitioning from home to the freshman year, so perhaps learning about the community, we find that is so crucial to students because they kind of just come and they're here at a new place and they don't necessarily feel connected to the community. And do you find by doing this in the freshman year, you've really helped them connect?
Yes, it helps a lot in this way. But I would say that the main goal that we adopted this kind of approach is to make them to realize about the real world. Mm-hmm. Sometimes their own homes or where they live, they are used to one kind of activity or community or family gatherings. And right now we want them to better know reality, how people live, and what kind of problems they have in their everyday life. So it's more a way to make them approach to the real world and then bring this kind of knowledge to the university. And then comes the university with its traditional knowledge to help them to connect the study they are going to do with the real world they have just experimented. Let's see. So it's a way to thinking in a professional formation to make them closer to the real world when they work in their professions.
Absolutely. It's so difficult to kind of go from the sort of cloistered world in the university, the way we're traditionally used to seeing it, and then you go out into the world and start working, and it seems like such a difficult transition. But here, they're getting this experience right off the bat. We find it's very helpful for them in terms of getting jobs as well, that they've had real world experience, and they know now. I love your idea of having them work in teams, which I have been finding is very, very important for students as well. Can you talk a little bit about why the teamwork approach is so important?
There's a lot of meanings related to that. One of that is that when you go to the professional world today, okay, everything in society today is interconnected. People need to work together everywhere, and you are not able to choose with whom you are going to work. So that's a main issue. So we tell them in the first week that, well, you're not going to choose with whom you're going to work. Even if you don't like their soccer team, in Brazil we like soccer teams, or if you don't like the color or the music they want, but you have to learn together. You have to study together and work together in a project. If you don't get to a good end at the project, the whole team is going to be in a failure. So you have to overcome the differences and learn to work together to accomplish a goal. That's one of the most important things for us in this design we are talking about.
What I find
in our experience
absolutely fascinating is that they are, it seems like it's without borders. These are people coming from a variety of different disciplines. Yep. So we talked about previously over lunch the idea that some people are coming from obstetrics, engineering, all different areas, and coming together to work on a problem, which really does simulate more of what your experience would be in real life. So can you talk about how the students adjust to that and bring what their particular interests are to bear on the problem?
Okay. We have two different ways in this approach. One of them, adopted by some of our staff, is just to study about the problems in the community. Okay, so they come together. The university defines a theme, a general theme like health and quality of life, for example, or water. Usually are social themes. Okay, and they come together. And then they go to the community nearby and define a problem. So we help them also to learn to identify a problem in the real world. That's one of the most important things we do. And some of them just study that. So they have to do a lot of study a lot of bibliography, whatever, just to understand that phenomenon. Okay. Myself and some other colleagues, we are working more now with the design thinking approach, with the project and problem-based learning, where we send the students in the first week to the community to listen. So they don't have a rigid method, okay, to interview or make a survey. Just they go there to talk with people. As I used to say, one of my students this semester, they went to a salon there to make their nails and talk to the ladies there about their life and the water problem they were studying. So in a more informal way, then they come back and start to think about a problem from what they have learned in the community. And so they define the problem after the first approach. And then they define what you call another theme, more specific. And then they go back to the community to talk to the people about the problem they're going to study. So this takes around 4 weeks to define that. And then they have to prototype solutions. They are not just going to study about the problem. So that's how you really get an approach to the community. They have to prototype a solution to the problem they have understood in their visits to the community. And when they develop these prototypes, they have to go there again and show to the people and see and improve the prototype with the feedback from the people who are going to use that solution. So it's a longer process. It takes around 4 months to develop. One good example that I'm giving right now is that the students who went to make the nail, they found out in the community that one of the problems was the cooking water, the filtering cooking water, that people use filtered water to drink on tap. But what about to cook? No one waits for boiling water. So they just developed a prototype with a huge gallon of water where it comes down really fast to fill a pan, a big pan, for example, and use a filtered water to cook. So they developed the whole process in 4 months. So it's not just studying about the problem, but also trying to find a solution. And I think this is where students learn. Finally, they have to make a theoretical report about that. they have to study how to filter water, and they are from, as you said, from obstetrics. They come from leisure and tourism. They come from information system. They work together, and they don't know each other, but they have a goal to accomplish. And they have to find out the solution for that and study and put some scientific and theoretical knowledge to explain the prototype they have done. So that's kind of approach we are doing.
There's so much I want to unpack there. First of all, the idea of listening, which I think is so crucial and can be very difficult for students to learn that skill right off the bat. So to be at the very beginning learning to listen carefully and to maybe go to the community itself. And I love that idea of going to the places of leisure to those third places where people are more open so they don't have to go to a town hall and talk, but instead they're going to sort of that third place where people might be a bit more open about what the issues are that they're dealing with. And I just love that. I think that's perfect. And then another aspect of this is that I'm guessing they develop a lot of respect for the different fields and how those fields work together. So I think that is really interesting because we don't often think of someone from obstetrics calling on someone from travel and leisure for assistance, but here they're going to have to learn how to do that. So can you give some examples of how that's worked?
Yes, we are created as an interdisciplinary campus with this main goal in our project, let's put it this way. Coming from a traditional university, the University of São Paulo has 80 years, it's 80 years old. This campus was created when USP turned 70 and was a way to show, although it was turning 70, it was still creative and innovative. So in the traditional University of São Paulo, you have, like everywhere, the School of Medicine, you have the School of Law, the School of Education, where people study only their own fields. So when USP created this new campus was with the idea to make people work together. Our graduate programs also are interdisciplinary. So it began first with the undergraduate majors, where people learned how to work together, and more important, the professors learned to work together. That's the most difficult thing in the project, to make the engineering professors, educational professors, psychologists, sociologists, chemistry people, they have to divide the same classroom. When you talk about this project, we talk about 60 students in one classroom, okay, divided in 10 groups of 6, and with 3 or 4 professors working together with the 60 students. And they come from different areas. And one interesting experience I had in the first years was working with me. For example, we had a guy from statistics and an anthropologist. We were sharing the same group. And of course, when we make the assessment, the anthropologist was saying, well, I think you should make one interview as a method and a deep interview. And the statistic guy said, well, you should have a sample of at least 100 people. And so what is difficult more is for the staff to learn to work together and respect each other. So in this way, we are forming our staff because they are obliged in some way to work together. It's part of our academic and curriculum project, and the students learn with that. Sometimes they see the staff fighting in one classroom, and so we want them to understand what is complexity of the phenomena, that they are not just biological or chemistry or physical or sociological. Any phenomenon, social phenomenon, they are interdisciplinary and complex. And so, and the students learn that, and the staff also learn by doing this kind of perspective. So, and this, we are reaching in the graduate programs this kind of approach. So we have right now 8 master's program all of them going in this kind of interdisciplinary perspective. And this is a result of this program, I think, this project.
It's really fantastic. Was it a tough sell? Because we find that our faculty work in silos and they don't necessarily, I mean, people say that they don't like that, but then there isn't as much collaboration as we would love to see. We're hoping our office can help facilitate that by having grants for a variety of different departments, and we work across the campus. But did you find that to be a difficult sell, the idea of everyone working together in this interdisciplinary fashion?
This is the most, as I said, the most difficult challenge for staff, okay? Because usually university professors, they are owner of the knowledge and they know their field. And when you talk about interdisciplinarity, you have to open your mind and listen to the others. But we are seeing the good results already. Like we have people from the major of textile and fashion getting hired in the Institute of Technology of São Paulo, for example. Okay. We have people from textile and fashion developing clothing for people with disabilities. Because since the first year, they are used to work with community engagement there. We have people, a lot of people from tourism, not just thinking about like working in big companies, but also developing touristic programs or approach for people in the class what we call in Brazil the C and D classes, which is the poorer people that also want to make some trips and things like that. So we are getting both I would say. We are changing the borders of knowledge, but at the same time with a huge social compromise in the students. Okay, so we have a lot of social work with that. That's why we are studying and work more with the service learning, and we don't have the service learning as you do in the US, that people individually goes to work in a community as a part of the curriculum, usually in most universities. But there we introduced that through the themes that they have to develop the problem. And so we send them to, not saying that we are working with service learning, whatever, but actually we tell them, if you're going with quality of life, or if you are going to work with a water problem in the community, you don't need to tell them you are going to do service learning, but they are doing it. And also learn to solve problems and prototype solutions. That's the main core of what we're doing.
Sometimes I think it's easier for people to hear things from students, so that it's sort of, the students are able to get in and see approaches that a faculty person might not, because there might be a slightly different approach coming from the community when they think they're talking to someone from the faculty as opposed to the students, so they may be a little bit more open potentially with the students. We've found that in some cases as well. So I think that developing this level of empathy that the students are having and their real ability to dig deeper and find out more about how the people in the community are feeling, I think is really important. How do you sort of focus on developing that kind of empathy, or does it just happen naturally?
We have a flexible method for that. Okay, we do have some patterns that the students must learn, but in order to develop this empathy, I would say the most important is to get connected with people. So that's why I was saying that we try not to use some methods like surveys or questionnaires, whatever, that you just, when you do it, you already have the answer. When you make a question, you already know what you want to know. And what we do with our students in a more qualitative first approach to the community is learn, as you said before, learn to listen. And you might be an open-minded to do that. Of course, I'm not talking, just free whatever happened. Of course, there is a method to do that. but the method is learn to listen to the people and get involved by what they are doing, how they live,
Right.
and then you are able to understand better what they do, what they feel, what they think, and then bring this to the university. And usually we say to the staff that one of the most important things in this approach is that teachers or professors, they learn with the students.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what is difficult sometimes for the staff also, that they're going to learn with their students. And we do learn a lot with them, because they bring situations from the community that I've never been there, or I don't know exactly. Usually we go to the campus, which is not in our community. I'm talking about the staff. We don't live there.
Right.
So we usually most of the staff, they don't know the community nearby. And that's a way also to learn about that.
We talk a lot about don't do research on a community, but with the community, and
Yeah.
have them be very much involved in the process. So I think that that's really important what you're talking about. Could you also explain to us the virtual campus that you have developed and how that works?
Okay, the virtual campus follows the same approach, but it's in another university. Okay, I'm working with them as a consultant. I'm a professor at the University of São Paulo, but the state of São Paulo just created the virtual University of São Paulo. Okay, it's the same system, but it's a different institution. And they opened last year for 2000 science teachers training program. Okay, and what is the biggest challenge? 1,300 engineers will be formed in this new campus with this approach. It's the same approach, because I was at USP helping to create this program, and now I'm at this new university. So the difference is that at USP, at the University of São Paulo, this approach, it's only in the first year, in the freshman year. And at the virtual university, this approach will last for the whole curriculum. 5 years in engineering and 4 years in science teachers training. And every semester they have the traditional disciplines that are offered by virtual tools like videos, mainly video classes, texts, whatever, it's normal. But they have a face-to-face meeting every week.
Okay.
And in this face-to-face meeting every week, 4 hours a week, is to develop projects. Okay, it's a project-based learning, the same way we did there with design thinking, where they have to raise a problem in the community and then prototype solutions working together. And some examples that they already are doing with the disciplines, for example. So in there, we try to integrate the disciplines, the courses, in the project they are doing. In the first semester of, for example, in the teachers training, they had one discipline that was computer literacy. They have Brazilian culture. They had Portuguese. They have to learn how to write in Portuguese. And they had English also as a subject. And they had to build, as a project, a real page in the Wikipedia, in Portuguese and in English. So they were freshman students in the first semester. So we were connecting the computer literacy. So they're learning how to use technology in classrooms, but learning by doing. The content of the Wikipedia they were learning in the discipline was related to Brazilian culture, another discipline, and they have to write it in Portuguese and in English. So they learn by doing. making a Wikipedia page using a Brazilian culture issue like a museum of science in their own community. We don't say what they are going to do. We just define you're going to write a Wikipedia from a culture in your own community. Some people some groups develop we are talking about 39 cities in the state of São Paulo, okay? They develop in the inland part of the city, of the state. They had some folk guitars, orchestras. So the group there did a Wikipedia page about the folk guitar orchestra in that area, in Portuguese and in English. So it's, again, real situations, learn by doing, and the kind of learning come by video and some virtual tools, but they have a face-to-face experience in groups of 6 where they have to develop a real project. And that's how this new university is doing in the same way, this project.
And finally, you are part of the multinational project looking at service learning and youth purpose. And I do find that students find their purpose through these kinds of courses. So can you talk a little bit about your role and why you think it's so crucial for students to learn this way and developing what their aim is in life?
Yeah, that's the role of research. We are doing that, but what about the results?
Yes.
This kind of approach really helps students to develop their purpose in life. So we are doing this multinational project with Jenni Mariano here from this university, and people from Finland, Spain, South Korea, China, Brazil, and US. We are working together to make this kind of study. In Brazil, we are working with my students in this campus, and we are going to we started to collect data last year, but I would say was kind of pilot. Mm-hmm. And now in August, we are going to begin to make a whole sample with over 100 students, where while they develop this program, we are going to interview them, assess them through a survey in 3 different moments of mm-hmm. survey, to see how this kind of approach are impacting the development of their purpose. Okay, we're talking about freshman students that just came in from high schools, and with open-minded, you are going to try to see if this kind of experience at university can help them to develop their purpose.
This has been fascinating. We're so delighted to have you here and to learn about the ways in which you're approaching this. So thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to being in touch in the future.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie, and I hope this experience can help you in developing some new perspectives here also.
Thank you.